Good morning. I'm Blanca Lucia Cely, and with Professor Yasmín Vargas, we have done this research that we are going to share with you today. It is called Including Local Culture in the EFL class in a Rural Context, a reflection from an intercultural perspective. According to the context, it is important to mention that the dynamics of today's world require citizens with intercultural and foreign language and communicative skills, as well as skills in new technologies, among others. However, when examining the reality of rural educational context, we see that teachers in these rural schools face great challenges to carry out this type of training due to the lack of technological resources, for example. And in the implementation of intercultural competences, we could realize that intercultural competences are integrated in the EFL class, but in a traditional way, from the perspective of the knowledge of the foreign language or the foreign country or the foreign culture, leaving aside the recognition of own culture and giving aside the cultural richness of these communities. We mainly focus, or teachers usually mainly focus on the foreign country and study about some traditions, festivities, and customs of the foreign culture, but not integrating the own culture in the EFL classroom. But we know there have been significant advances in the implementation of intercultural communicative competences. But when teaching in rural areas, teachers present important challenges, as I mentioned before, in terms of technological resources, materials, and facilities for teachers and students. For this reason, in this research, we wanted to implement teaching of English based on own resources students have. What are the resources? Their own cultural cultural aspects, their own traditions, their own beliefs, in order to motivate and get they involved in their learning process. So, in this sense, this research was carried out in a village called 𝗤𝗏 in Cundinamarca. It is located half an hour from the capital city, Bogota, in a rural context with secondary school students. Um, we took advantage of the fact that 𝗤𝗏 is a town rich in traditions, myths, legends, and popular beliefs. These aspects were really important and were included in the context of teaching English as a foreign language. Some of the theoretical aspects I consider in this research was, first of all, culture. That is a concept that is really difficult to define because nowadays, due to the globalization, social groups are heterogeneous. So Кова mentioned that it is not easy to define this aspect due to the heterogeneous people and due to that each people in the same group have different traditions and cultures. Another aspect we took into consideration was intercultural competence, that is understood as a set of abilities human beings have to communicate and integrate with different cultures and that are different from oneself. Another one is intercultural communicative competences, that is the ability to integrate intercultural communicative competences to the language learning. That implies the cultural acceptance and in order to enhance students' awareness and enhance diversity and cultural expressions in the social context. Another aspect we considered was intercultural approach for language teaching that, according Rico, is one of the main challenges teachers face because sometimes they confuse language as a synonym of country. So when teachers want to teach about culture or integrate culture, they teach about the country, but not about the culture of that country. So language is a synonym of country, but it is important to consider that is not just to teach about the country, but also the culture and integrate the culture in the context of teaching. So according to our research, the research methodology, our research question that guided this research project was: to what extent does the teaching of English contribute to the improvement of the students' intercultural communicative competence through local culture and traditions in the EFL class at 𝗵𝗏𝗯 Rural School in 𝗤𝗏, Cundinamarca? 𝗵𝗏𝗯 is the name of a school, and the population was students from high school in this rural area in the town named 𝗤𝗏, and the sampling was 14 students aged 16 to 18 more or less, and they were 7 girls and 7 boys. For the data collected instruments, we use students' artifacts, field notes, participant observation. This is qualitative research that follows the design of hermeneutic research. And for the data analysis, we use the software Atlas T. And now I'm going to share with you the findings. The main finding was the integration of language skills with intercultural competences that make students aware of their own traditions and talk about them in English. So it was observed cultural appreciation because students were able to appreciate their culture in a way they had never done before and to involve this knowledge in English class. Students reflect on local culture. They understood the cultural traditions of local people, and reflected on some aspects, for example, aspects of their own culture, for example, clothing, food, festivals, religious beliefs, religious traditions, and were able to learn more about them and more about the culture. They were able to associate previous knowledge with the local culture in a more conscious and reflective way. It was important for them to be aware of the cultural enrichment of their religion. They discovered the richness of the wonders they have in the town, such as some interesting touristic places, for example, waterfalls, mountains, which before were seen just another an interesting object, just part of the landscape. They were aware of the advantage their town their town has in tourism, and how they could learn English to communicate with foreign tourists who often visit 𝗤𝗏. They also recognize aspects regarding with agriculture. Agriculture is a very significant occupation for farmers in the region, so students investigate more about some products, about farming, and about farmers and the way they work and the way they live, and all the activities that students were in English. These are some examples of workshops that the students did. In addition to the activities in the classroom, there were also walks and field trips to discover the beauty of the landscape and learn about it, identifying how to name specific objects in English. These photos are evidence of the work that was done outside the classroom and activities that took place later inside the classroom. So students got excited to talk and write about the traditions of their town. They recorded videos, made pieces of writing, designed posters which were socialized in the school, and this motivate them to speak in English. This is a sample of these pictures are some of the samples of the work done by students, and students were more students students became more sensitive about their culture, their traditions. Some students mentioned that they had never had the opportunity to analyze and be reflected about their own skills in English class and their own culture. Maybe they have already done it in other classes in their mother language, in Spanish, but they found it valuable to be able to do it in the English class. So some festivities, for example, Corpus Christi, are important traditions in the town. So students were interested to know more about them, that to know what is done, how is it celebrated. Food was another interesting topic that attract the attention, students' attention. They investigated and involved their parents and even grandparents, asking about typical recipes of traditional dishes, and then they told or they present them the typical dishes in English and explained about their recipe. They were also interested to know how to express in English, how to express specific information about some touristic places in the town, to tell about it to foreigners who usually visit the town. They found valuable speaking in English and felt really proud to be able to tell about their own places, their own touristic places, their own traditions, their own food in English. So these are some of the materials students develop,